Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Mark, a trainer here at WEX Field Service Management, and today we're covering job profit and loss and allocation. This webinar will cover how to set up your job profit and loss in your system, understand where to find job P&L information. We'll go over your product costs, your labor costs, other expenses, how your system will calculate the job profit and loss. We'll look at some reporting so you can view job P&L in bulk and go over allocation for your technicians. Maybe you want to give them a credit, some commission for the jobs that they're doing, or maybe you're just doing a revenue review where you're setting some sales goals and you want to see if they are hitting those goals. We will do a live Q&A at the end where you'll be able to get your questions answered live on stream. And without further ado, let's dive into WEX FSM. All right. I am currently on a job in my system, and we want to navigate to the profit and loss section. Every job that you have, and so I just went to my customer, Justin Hernandez. I typed his name in the top here, went to his customer page, and then created a job for today's presentation. But these will be jobs that you're doing normally with your customers, and every single job that you have in your system will calculate the profit and loss for that job. Now, the job profit is going to be calculated through a couple factors. Number one is the revenue that you're making on the job, which is calculated from the invoice. So right here, under the job profit and loss section, we see profitability, and I can see this is my revenue for this job. The revenue will be the total of the invoice or invoices that are paid, and that is sort of the total amount without costs being subtracted. Then you have your costs. So with every job that you do, you as a business are going to take on costs. And we have product costs, which is when you create a price book item, you will enter in the cost that you pay for that item. That will automatically add, when you add that product to the invoice, that will automatically set the product cost. As you add more and more items, the product cost will go up. And then when the job is done, you'll see the product cost will be the entire cost for all items that have a cost that you've added to the invoice. Now, to set up your product costs, you will want to go to More Applications, Price Book, My Price Book. Each item in your price book, and I'll just click on General Part here as an example. Each product in your price book has a cost field. If this says 0, if this is an empty field, then when I add this product to an invoice, it will not be able to calculate the cost, meaning that my job P&L will be incorrect. So you want to make sure for all price book items, you have the cost. And this is just generally the amount that you are paying for this item. Now, this will be a default amount because maybe the cost will be slightly different for the product that you actually are purchasing when you do the job, but you can update that on the job if you need to. But important to know, going into your price book and adding your costs will be the part that factors in to the product cost section of the job P&L costs and expenses. The next thing you want to set up is your labor. This is going to be the labor cost for your technicians. And to set this up, you will go to Settings, User Management, Users. That will bring you to the users page. And any users that are going to be, out in the field, working the jobs, tracking time on the jobs, you will want to update their labor cost per hour. So I have my field technician here, Dustin Bailey, who runs jobs for me. I'm going to click on Dustin Bailey. And then the labor cost per hour is asking, how much do you pay this user for 1 hour of service? So we are paying Dustin $40 an hour. When Dustin goes out to the job, he'll be able to, from the mobile app, say, I'm on my way, I'm at the job, and now the job is complete. And those will track his time, and then we'll take the labor cost per hour from his user profile. That will multiply times the hours worked to give us the official labor cost. And then we also have other expense. Now, typically the product cost and labor cost, that's going to be the cost that you are having for the jobs. But let's say that there is something you need to add that maybe you don't want your customer to see, but it is a cost that needs to be factored into the job profit and loss. For other expense, you will click the drop down here where it says details, or sorry, see details. And then we will see other expense is here. And so, this is really kind of scenario based. It'll be based on the job that you're doing. An example here, maybe I needed to rent a piece of equipment for this job, but I don't really want my customer to know that. So I am factoring that in. This is how much we paid for that rental. That will give us a true cost for every cost, but this ultimately will be up to you what you want to add. That does factor in to the cost here. And then the final equation, your system will calculate the job profit and loss automatically for you once you set your product costs in the price book and your labor cost from the users. This is good to go. Your normal job, you'll create your invoice, you'll charge the customer, your system will factor in and subtract the costs, and that will give us the profit. So when you're done with the job, you can look right here and see the amount of profit you've made per job. And you would simply do that by clicking into the job and going to the profit and loss section. So always good to know. I mean, how much you're making on each job is huge, but maybe you want to see this in bulk. You can click into each job individually and look here, but we do have a report that will allow you to see your job profit and loss for all of your jobs in your system. So you can kind of track that in bulk. To do this, we're going to go to reporting. From the reporting page, we're going to go in the jobs section to job profit report right here, a summary and detailed view of profit and loss by job. The job profit report is a great place to review your job profit and loss in bulk, and you can filter by date range, by job type. Maybe I want to see, what was our profit from installs last month? Your job status, I want to look at all my open jobs, my closed jobs, my abandoned jobs. You can set this up by lead source. So just a pro tip, if you want to dive deeper into this job P&L, you can set up lead sources, which is saying, where are your customers coming from? And then let's say, you do a bunch of sales over a couple months. Now you want to come back and see which of these lead sources are pulling in the most revenue. So to set up a lead source, you would go to Settings. Oh, sorry. We want, hold on, let me get out of this. Yeah, Settings, Marketing, Lead Sources. And again, that's Settings, Marketing, Lead Sources. Now, you will have some default sources here, but if you want to get, really detailed, you can click to add your own, and you simply put the lead source name and the description if you would like, and hit save. When you are adding a new customer, hey Jim, how's it going? Glad to have you as a first-time customer. You will click the red plus button to add a customer. And wait, this is the referral source. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to add them. And then on their customer page, we have those here, which these are the referral sources. So the lead source, actually, let me check. My apologies. They have switched the settings around a little bit. So let's go to our appointment and show lead. Okay. So that's my apologies. They moved it on me. So when you want to set a lead source, that is done when you're creating the appointment to actually like go do the job for them. When you're creating the appointment, you will click show lead. And then here are the lead sources. So you can tag where this job you're about to do came from. And then when you are, let's go back. When you're on the job profit report, now you can track by lead source to see where your revenue is coming from. All right. Let me check my notes before we move on. There we go. Okay. And so that is your job profit. And just as a reminder, it is important for all of this data to be correct, that you make sure your product cost is set in your price book, your labor cost is set from the user page, and then in the moment, you'll want to add any additional expenses that may relate to the cost for the job. Okay, so that is our overview of job profit and loss, how to set it up, where to find it, and where to look at your reports. Next, let's talk about allocation. To start, we will go to Settings, Jobs, Job Types. First, allocation. There's a couple different scenarios where you may want to allocate funds for your technicians. One scenario is that you want to just give them a commission. They're doing work. You want to encourage them to do more work and get the revenue up per job, maybe add recommended items. and you want to provide a commission for that. We have a way for you to track that through allocation. Another scenario may be you have some sales goals, monthly sales goals that you want your technicians to hit, and we have a way to track that as well. But the allocation feature just gives you the ability to determine how much credit you want to give your technicians for the jobs that they're doing. And to set this up, you will set up your allocation through job types. Each job type that you do here will allow you to choose a percent allocation for those types of jobs. And to give you an example here, we will click on service. So the service job type here, if we look, this says percent allocation between technicians. And if you hover over this I here, it will give you just a little summary of what this is about. But basically, this is asking how much percentage credit do you want to give the primary technician? And how much percentage credit do you want to give to additional technicians? In this scenario here, this is saying that we are going to give 75% credit for the primary technician, and then the additional tech will do work and they will get 25%. And that's towards the total of the revenue, the invoices that are paid on the job. And the example scenario, if I want to give, let's say, a commission, I've got my field technician, Dustin. I want to encourage him to sell more. And we're going to give Dustin 10% of the sales that he's working on for his jobs. What I could do is come in here and set 10%. And maybe I also want to give any additional technicians who go and help on the job, let's give them, let's say 5%. And then what will happen is Dustin and a helper goes out to a job. They will finish the job and there will be an amount of revenue. You will be able to track on the technician job performance report, which we'll look at in just a second. You'll be able to track this 10% and this 5% for those technicians to see how much commission you want to give to that technician. In another scenario, maybe we want to track sales goals. I want my technician Dustin to do $50,000 in revenue this month. I would then want to set this to 100%. And what that will do is in the reporting, it will show you 100% of the amount that he's doing. So as he's working towards that $50,000 goal, you'll be able to track that because it's going to show 100% of each job, which will add up to that $50,000 goal as he continues doing more jobs. Now, this option here is important. This is the tech allocation strategy. If you split among techs, that is going to split the amount of the revenue. And if you're splitting, you will need to make sure that these two percentages add up to 100%. So if I wanted to do, let's say, 75 and 25, then when I'm looking at the reports, I will see the invoice total for the primary tech will be 75% of all invoices. And then the additional techs will show 25%. If you want to do the other scenario for tracking sales goals, then we will do give to each tech. That way, we can have this as 100% for both, and it won't register as 200%. It will just give credit for 100% of the work that they're doing, and then it makes it easier to track in your reporting. And so let's set this back to 75% and 25%. And we'll go ahead and split. Now, once you make changes here, this says, would you like to apply these changes to jobs previously? So if you've already created jobs, and let's say that you are now switching to a new process, but you want to keep historical record of all previous jobs, you would not want to update. But if you want to update it for all the jobs in your system, in case you would need to go back to them, you will select yes, update past jobs. And with this, when you're done, you will click save. So now let's see this sort of in context. Let's go back to our job. Each job that you have will have a user allocation section. And this will show you the percentage of credit you are allowing to count for the revenue of this job. And then you will want to go to the technician job performance report to actually look at these numbers in bulk. To do this, let's go to reporting. And then under the users section, we have the technician job performance report. So this goes in line with allocation. And I've just pulled up an example here, try to make this as simple as possible to look at. On the job, we know that Dustin here is getting 75% credit for all invoices that he is working on. And that number is seen right here under the invoice total. So for example, if I have the allocation set to 10%, let's say, and the job revenue is $100, and we're looking at just that job, it would say the invoice total here would be $10. And that is the amount, let's say, for commission that I would need to pay Dustin per what we set. If you are doing 100% allocation, then this invoice total will show 100% of all the invoices. And that way you can track the sales goals. So he does a $10,000 job, this will say 10,000. Then he does another $10,000 job, this will say 20,000. And he'll work his way up to that $50,000 goal. And you can, from here, set your date ranges. Right now, I have this viewed as just one technician, but you can see all of your technicians here. This is just a great report in general. You can see the technician, all their appointments, whether those appointments were completed, their percentage of completion of appointments. But for allocation specifically, invoice total is what you want to look at, and this will show the percentage of allocation that you set on the job types page. All right, and so quick and easy, we are going to go to our Q&A now. That's all the information we have for today's presentation. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Mark with WEX Field Service Management, and this has been Job Profit and Loss and Allocation.